You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Are you ready to learn to get rid of stress in your life? To learn how to deal with the emotional turmoil that causes strokes, heart attacks, bad health, and even weight gain? Life-changing habits for work, family, and everyone you deal with start here with Andrew Wittman. It's time to get warrior tough. Here's Andrew Wittman and Dutch Coleman.
All right, it's time to get warrior tough, the most monumental hour in media anywhere. We are leadership and mental toughness coaches Andrew Wittman and the Dutch Coleman. What's up, Dutch?
What's happening, my friend?
Well, I am enjoying this spring weather that we're having down here in the southeast. I heard it was warm up your way, too.
Well, I tell you what, we had a warm spell yesterday, and we were back to reality today with a high of 32. So we are back to normal.
Oh, well, you can have it, brother. Hey, guys, if y'all want to join us on their conversation on Twitter, use the hashtag GetWarriorTough. You can find Dutch, as always, at The Dutch Coleman, and I'm at WarriorToughPhD. Go to the website. Check us out at GetWarriorTough.com. Get all of our newest, latest, greatest stuff. There's tons of free content. Go to the Facebook page and like us on the YouTube channel and subscribe. Find a handle and hook on. Dutch, I'm very excited about what we got. So much stuff going on this week. We got tons of questions came in, and you and I, if you don't mind, we're just going to take some batting practice at these questions. Would that be all right?
Oh, absolutely. Let's do it. I love it. I love hearing what people are concerned about, what's on their minds, whether it be personal, whether it be their business life, or whatever. Just throw it at us.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and that's where we're at our best. I think coaching is when we're just, you're pitching, throwing us some curveballs, sometimes some fastballs, but we'll handle it. And I hate to use all the baseball metaphors. You got me started on that today, man.
That's all good. It's baseball season. The pitchers and catchers have already reported, and they're already starting the spring training game, so it's all good.
All right, it's all good. Okay, so here's the first one. Now, this came in on Twitter. This is from one of a CEO in a firm in Atlanta named David. And so he said this. He said, what's the best place? Where's the best place to start instilling mental toughness in your team? Where's the best place to start instilling mental toughness in your team? And Dutch, before we want to answer that question, I think what we really need to do is have a conversation and take a minute to define mental toughness. What do you think? I mean, you and I talk about this a lot.
Oh, yeah. When people hear mental toughness, there's this fear that comes, like, people are growling and, you look at these really intense people that are, I'm mentally tough, and they think about warriors and they think about violence or physical nature.
Excuse me. Oh, yeah. That's some Tough Mudder run or something. Or one of those zombie apocalypse survivalist camps, the prepper militia guys or something.
But it's actually the edge that you have. Mental toughness is more of an edge that you have that balances the physical part of it. It's what allows you to get through the difficult physical part of something, or a difficult competition, or something that allows you to maintain your confidence and get through those difficult circumstances. So it's not the physical part, but it allows the physical part to become almost easier and manageable. So it's definitely not what people think of, this attacking nature that you have. It's
they kind of think, or they just think they're just going to suffer through something, that I'm really good at taking a lot of pain. I mean, I get that a lot too. Like, I'm just going to, but in the Get Warrior Tough process, and the way Dutch and I coach, and here's our definition of it is that you would take, this is mental toughness, is that you would take complete control of your thoughts, your attitudes, your opinions, and your beliefs and your emotions, especially under pressure. So we're going to take complete control of how we think our thoughts, complete control of our emotions, complete control of our belief systems and our opinions, and we point that in the right direction. And we actually talk about this in our corporate programs. We call it the CEO of you, right? So here's where it all starts with the individual, ground zero leadership. So you have the person needs to take control of their own boardroom. And when I say this, so if I hired somebody to be the CEO of them, what I say is, all right, I'm hiring you CEO of you. Your job as the CEO of you Incorporated is to get your board of directors to act in concert for your betterment. This is mental toughness, right? And here's your board of directors, your body, your mind, and your emotions. And then I ask them, when you have a boardroom meeting, who usually wins the vote? People are like, well, your mind. I'm like, yeah, if that was only true, right? Like, because most people, I'll say, like, have you ever made an emotional decision? And they'll be like, yeah. How's that work out? Somebody in a conference up in the Northeast yelled out, divorce in the back of the room. I said, well, sometimes, it could, right? But this is the beginning of mental toughness, is that we take control. The individual has to take control of their boardroom so that their body and their mind and their emotions are under control. And, you and I had a conversation about one of your kids that were saying something about my mind was telling me to do something. And you said, hey, you're in control of your mind. See, and people think that their mind is controlled. We, as the CEO of us, we control our mind, we control our emotions, we control our bodies, we control our thoughts. That's the beginning of mental toughness.
Absolutely. That and mindset mastery is everything. I mean, that is the root, and we always deal with root causes. So you hear that word a lot. That's the beginning of everything. And when you begin to understand, even before you can do it, but before anything, you need to understand what this all means. And that's why I'm glad that we're talking about mental toughness and the definition of it before we move forward. Because once you understand what it is, then it releases you to get all the gains that come with it.
Right. So once you understand what it is, like Dutch said, then the move forward here. Now, once you know what it is and you take control of your boardroom, and that's easier said than done. Here's the number one rule as CEO of you. Here's how you would take control of your boardroom: is to separate out logic from emotion. Right? Never the two should come together, because if you mix the two, it's like a binary explosive. Bad things happen.
Now, that doesn't mean you're not aware of the two. And so Andrew just said you don't mix the two, because they both have their place, they both have their power, they both have a purpose. But you don't mix the two. You don't get them confused. That's the problem.
Right, absolutely not. And we talk about that. So so emotion, and we have to have both in place, because I hear people say, well, business is no place for emotion. Wrong, Skippy. Okay. Emotion is in the wrong place in the driver's seat. Okay, so emotion is the engine. Logic is the steering wheel. We should make the decisions steering with logic, but we do why we do the hard thing is the emotional driver. And that's why this is really the mental toughness piece, is right, that I deploy my emotions, that I will do the hard thing. And that's where where you hear the athletes talking about it, because they're pushing through physical pain, they're pushing through the workouts, they're pushing through the pressure of the situation, they're pushing through the adversity on the field, they're pushing through it, and that's because they're controlling that's why I'm doing the hard thing. So it has a huge place. And if you're a team leader, you don't know why somebody's doing the hard thing. If you can't find that emotional driver, there's no way that they could ever have mental toughness. If they're just there for the paycheck, right, Dutch, that runs out really fast, doesn't it?
Absolutely, man. That's the thing. I'm glad you touched on the emotions. They're still existent, and they're still there. People always say, well, how can you get rid of your emotions? Well, I don't get rid of my emotions.
Heck no, man. They're a huge important piece.
You said you deploy. So if I'm deploying it, that means, leaders deploy troops, right? I deploy my troops. So if I'm deploying my emotions, I'm deploying which troops, which emotions I'm going to send out during that task. So during something that's tough, I can remain enthusiastic. That's an emotion, right?
Absolutely.
I can remain active. I can remain stimulated, excited. I can remain all those things, right? So I can deploy those instead of irritation or sadness, or attacking by blaming others and things. So I'm not deploying those emotions. I'm deploying a different, because emotions are powerful. They're strong. Right. They will help you. As much as people say they'll hurt you, they can help you as well.
Tremendously.
Which ones are you?
Determination.
Absolutely. Which ones are you sending out? Right. Which ones are you sending out into the battlefield?
Right. If I'm going to be determined, that's an emotion. My determination level. Right. I'm going to win. I refuse to quit. Right. And these are emotions. Right. I have to drive that. Those are the things that keep me in the fight. Right. And So that's a huge piece. But we have to have the logic. So this is the critical thinking piece. So here's really what mental toughness is when we teach it to corporate. Is it's a hybrid of emotional intelligence and critical thinking. And you and I talk about the critical thinking piece a lot because most people, they just think their thoughts. It's like a daggone jungle up there. There's weeds growing everywhere and like vines and honeysuckle and, kudzu. And there's just a mess up there. They have no process on how to think their thoughts. So that's the two pieces, emotional intelligence, deploy them, and then I have to figure out what's the process of how I think my thoughts. And you and I talk about this a lot, Dutch, just even to each other on the phone, man, about the process of thinking thoughts.
Absolutely. And that's another word, people are going to get used to hearing us say process. Process. Everything we do is now without a process. So when you begin to develop processes, you're going to take yourself, I don't want to say you're going to take yourself out of it, but what you're going to have is a certain self always there. And that's the thing. You're going to have this lineup. It's like when you have a starting lineup for a sports team, right? You have that starting lineup. So that's the lineup you send out there. So you're not wagged from game to game, not knowing what you're going to do. You have this lineup already set in place, what you're going to do, and like we talk about emotions, what emotions are going to come into play. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to be determined. I'm going to be all these different things every time. I have my same lineup of emotions that I deploy in difficult situations.
Now, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I don't want to just gloss over that because this is really a huge thing. You have a lineup of go-to emotions that you're going to deploy in the lineup. Almost like, all right, it's baseball season, we'll stick with it, right? So who's batting off, lead-off batter, which emotion's going to start you off, which one's in the number 2 spot, which one's number 3, who's the cleanup hitter, right? So we know the order of these emotions. You already have a process of which emotion you're going to send out first, second, third, and who follows up with that. That's how into this process of mental toughness that we are. And obviously, you're not going to get it on a 1-hour radio show, right? Which is why when you bring us in, you're not even going to get it in 2 days. That's why we have the follow-up program, the Agents of Change, where it takes, literally months. I mean, the first stage just to get the foundation laid is 12 weeks, just so we could kind of dig out the bad things so we can just figure out, weed out the jungle. But it is genius that you brought that up, Dutch, that you have a lineup of emotions that you would deploy in a certain order every single time.
Every single time. And it's no different than any competition. These people come into competitions prepared. They come in having practice. They come in having done the scouts of the other team. So you're basically doing that in life. Whenever you plan and you have this process, you know what's ahead. You use what was behind you moving forward and coming up with your process moving forward. So you are prepared for anything. So when you hear people saying, I'm prepared for anything, I'm ready for anything, it's true. They already have all the tools. They have that toolbox sitting there on their hip. They have that, the tool belt on their hip,
yep,
ready to pull out the tools that they need for different situations. And they have the wrench, they have the screwdriver, Phillips head, they have everything they need, the hammer, they have all the things they need right there on their hips, waiting to be deployed. They're prepared. They have their process, and they're ready for anything. So that's literal when people say, I'm ready for anything.
Go, Gadget Arms. Oh, right. Never mind.
You're dating yourself there.
Yeah, I know.
I love the Inspector Gadget.
Inspector Gadget, probably, right? Good stuff. That's
probably the 80s, 1980s?
I don't know, man. That's a long time ago. Okay, so I just remember he was the guy that played on Get Smart, which was from the 60s, which is really where I'm dating myself, where he had the shoe phone in Agent 99.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yes. So it was when he was old, he did the voiceover. But these things are very, this is so important. This is the beginning of instilling mental toughness in your team. And I know we're coming up on a break, so I don't want to get, I'll just hit it and then we'll just stop where we are and we'll come back on the other side. But dealing with a team, you have to understand, when you are dealing with a team, it is like raising a child. When the team, it goes through stages, just like when the child is first born, a team is first born, it's like an infant. Like, what do you have to do for an infant, Dutch, if you're the parent?
Oh, you got to do everything.
Everything. And this is the team leader. You got to understand that when you put a team together. And I know, okay, it could be like, that guy has, we'll say, well, the team has combined experience of 100 years. It doesn't matter. This is the first time they're coming together. It's a baby being born. It's a brand new entity. The team is an infant. Okay, so when we get back, we will go from the break. We'll go through the stages. We'll talk a little bit more about the team, because if you don't have the right mindset about the team, you're going to get frustrated as the team leader. You're listening to the Get Warrior Tough radio show with the Dutch Coleman, and I am, of course, your friendly neighborhood mental toughness coach, Andrew Wittman.